The state of North Carolina is more than twice as long as the distance between London and Paris. From soaring mountains through the foothills, the Piedmont coastal plains, to the pristine beaches, there are hundreds of towns and cities, each with unique stories to tell.
There's a place where you can love your neighbors, you love yourself, and everybody can get along.
Every North Carolina community has pride, and more than a few have real challenges.
The nearest grocery store is 18-20 miles away.
Main Street NC is a special series from the WUNC Politics podcast, telling the stories of communities across North Carolina in the words of the people who live there and reported by Capitol Bureau Chief Colin Campbell. Main Street NC, coming up after this.
For the past 65 years, St. Andrews University has been a major economic engine for the small town of Laurinburg in Scotland County near the South Carolina line. And with more than 1,000 students and staff in a town of about 15,000 people, the university was a big part of the town's identity. That all changed on May 5th.
St. Andrews University in Laurinburg is now just a memory because as of 5 o'clock today, the campus closed its doors for good due to ongoing financial problems.
The closure came after years of financial challenges, many of which are common among private colleges in rural areas. Students and alumni gathered after the final day to sing the alma mater and say farewell. Now the 400-acre campus on the edge of town sits barricaded and empty. The athletic fields are getting overgrown, and its aging buildings are falling into disrepair. The absence of students can be felt in Laurinburg's historic downtown, where businesses relied on the university community for a portion of their sales. Laurinburg is one of the more active downtowns in this part of North Carolina, and thanks to a speaker system along the sidewalks, it even has its own soundtrack. Jim Clark and his wife Lori own the shop Antiques, Arts, and Oddities on Main Street. Weekends during university events used to be busy, but not anymore.
This year we had a third of the foot traffic that we had last year.
Yeah.
And the other stores told us the same thing. It's the people that were coming down for this, all the school stuff, and they're not here now.
Yeah.
So we definitely felt it, but just gotta take it in stride and keep moving.
Clark isn't originally from Laurinburg, but he says the community has embraced his shop since it opened a few years ago.
We live around the corner. We moved here 4 years ago from Ohio. We were looking for an historic home, and we didn't like Ohio anymore. We wanted to get out of the snow.
Clark isn't the only business owner drawn to Laurinburg's Main Street. Next door, workers are building a new cocktail bar, and a bakery is running a pop-up shop in the antique store while finishing its permanent storefront. The city's community development director, Walker McCoy, says the activity downtown is the result of careful planning.
Downtown has come a long way, even in the last, again, 10 years. Laurinburg's part of the North Carolina Main Street program. That's been great to help with resources. We have a dedicated downtown coordinator.
New businesses have helped bring down Scotland County's unemployment rate. 3 years ago, it was over 7%, one of the highest in the state. As of August, the Scotland County unemployment rate is down to 5.5%. That's still higher than the state's urban and tourism centers, but it's better than several other rural counties. The loss of the university could harm that momentum, but local leaders are hopeful that the campus can be redeveloped, just not as a college. To hear more about Laurinburg's economic future and what's next for the St. Andrews campus, I headed to the local Chamber of Commerce office to speak with the people charting that path. Joining me to discuss the state of the economy here in Laurinburg and Scotland County, I'm joined by Chris English, Executive Director of the Laurinburg-Scotland County Area Chamber of Commerce, Walker McCoy, he's the Community Development Director for the City of Laurinburg, and Jeff McCoy, President of Scotland County Economic Development Corporation. Gentlemen, thanks so much for speaking with me.
Thank you for allowing us to be here.
So let's start with the big economic picture for Laurinburg and Scotland County. What do you see as sort of our major types of employers here, and how has that mix changed over the years?
We had an economy that really ran a negative unemployment rate up until the mid-90s, and with a very diversified agriculture, agribusiness, Fortune 500 industry that supported a very vibrant community with healthy nonprofits that were propped up with volunteers from middle management and executive management of these industries. You know, we saw decimation of that when NAFTA hit in the 90s, and a lot of these companies exited. The folks who stayed have been very big team players with Chris, the rest of the economy, or the rest of the community. And I think, you know, what you're seeing now is this great opportunity for a resurgence. I came on board, like I say, in the middle of the summer, and I've just been overwhelmed by how much prospective activity there is in the economy. I think there's an opportunity to bring some of that back, and you've got a community that's got the infrastructure to do that. And what I'm so impressed with and have really enjoyed being back is the teamwork that from the city, the county, the Chamber of Commerce, the airport authority, the hospital, all our major players work together. And I think there's a fantastic opportunity to see Scotland County come back to the kind of vibrance it had in the 90s.
So you think sort of manufacturing jobs may be sort of the core of that, or are there other industries that you feel like are good fits for where this county may be going?
To me, for whatever reason, the number of proposals we've been able to submit for a diverse group of other industries has been pretty impressive over the last 4 months that I've been here.
Are there certain biggest employers that you have now and sort of similar things that could be coming in the future, or are there sort of new areas that you're looking at?
So and Chris, you might want to jump in on this too, and Walker, but you know, it's very fascinating. The city and this, you know, I'm benefiting from a lot of moves the city and the county and chamber made prior. We've got a great new industrial park out on 401 bypass. We call it Wallace Way. We just located an auto parts manufacturer in there. They're gearing up. They moved down from New York because they like the community. We're building a new spec facility right across from that. FCC, he makes clutch components, has a facility there. Another auto parts company. We got NSG Pilkington, one of the largest glass plants in the world, just made a tremendous new investment. You know, that plant's been here since the 70s, but made a tremendous new investment in a new float glass line that finished up about a year ago. Still doing fantastic. Number of wood fiber companies. We have a very diversified.
Edwards Wood Products is one of those. But I think, you know, our hospital is our healthcare system is our number one employee right now, and I think would be followed up by the school system, which I don't think would be uncommon for other counties our size. But we've got a lot of work and a lot of attention's being put out on our Laurinburg-Scotland airport. A lot of work's being done out there, so we're looking at aeronautical. I mean, with a lot of opportunities with the airport and the improvements that they are making.
Yeah, what makes the airport such an asset to this area compared to other towns that may have similar sized airports or be looking at some of the same types of economic impacts from that particular sector?
Well, I think historically, if you don't know, it was a U.S. Army Air Force base, and that it was given to the cities of Laurinburg and Maxton with that infrastructure in place. So that particular airport has its own water system and wastewater that they manage. There's rail out there. There's gas lines of natural gas. So that airport has a lot of the infrastructure already set up that a lot of airports don't.
Yeah, if you think about what Chris is saying, you know, they're building a new terminal that's under construction, 11 or 12 new hangars, I think.
Right.
Seth Hatchell is our airport director, and could give you more detail on that. But you got two runways that are 6,500 and 3,500 feet long, plus an inactive runway. and a healthy industrial infrastructure around that airport. Campbell Soup.
With existing businesses
with
already.
Existing business, Campbell Soup, Meritor,
Right.
Railroad Friction Products, and a lot, Corteva Agriscience.
I want to drill down a little bit into sort of the big economic news this year for Scotland County, the closure of St. Andrews University. Where did the university fit into the overall economic picture in terms of how many jobs it contributed and how it interacted with the rest of the local economy?
So I've seen several studies. The estimated impact was somewhere around $60 million that we'll lose. And a tremendous number of employees, and it was a very difficult situation because they had 2 days notice. And, the Weber International University had made an acquisition of St. Andrews in 2011. And again, I'm coming into this kind of new, but what I can see is there's a big redevelopment effort that the community is trying to envision for that campus, which constitutes about 300 acres around the main campus and another 300 acres around an equestrian facility that the college ran. And the community came together very quickly. There's a number of really sticky items that we can't talk details, but there's a lot of debt that was left. And one of our sister company nonprofits in the community, Scotland Development Corp, was asked to step in 2010, 2011 timeframe and help the college save its accreditation by taking on some of that debt for the benefit of the college to continue to operate as an accredited university. And the community did that. And communities made a lot of investments in this, with fundraisers for salaries, fundraisers for operations over the last 50 years. And it's got a tremendous investment in that campus and in its well-being. And likewise, there's creditors that do too. And those creditors, acted in good faith. Communities acted in good faith. And now we're left with a pretty desperate situation that I'm optimistic about because the community has banded together and made significant monetary commitments to try and work through with the state. And we've had promises from our legislators that there's some things they can do to help us with that redevelopment. But we've still got to work through a number of sticky situations that really no fault of the people left with it, but it's just the economic reality of what we've got to deal with going forward.
Yeah, what sort of, once you get through that debt situation and get that resolved, what are some of the potential future uses of that property? I imagine a university property is very specialized in the type of buildings that are out there, and what else you might be able to do with that in the future.
Yeah. So without saying too much, some of our community partners include the hospital, the Scotia Village, a retirement community, as the city, the county. Actually, the airport authority is concerned enough about it for the vibrance of the community that we've all kind of pulled together. And I think what you probably see is some type of, we would probably need to, if you think about a painting canvas, we'd need to wipe the canvas clean and maybe start over. We'd love to see education. We'd love to see, some community infrastructure, and that may also include, some other types of housing. But at this point, we've got to get through where we're at. And the thought is we would probably try and commission some type of a master plan that we would put an RFP out for a developer to have the best impact for the community. We'll have one chance to do this right. And we'll take it. We want to make sure we plan for it correctly. And what we are committed on is anybody else that comes in, we need to know that they have a substantial capital footing to be our community partner. And we're going to be very diligent about making sure we pick the partners with the capital fortitude to see something through that makes a benefit for our overall tax base.
Mm-hmm.
And in the sort of the meantime, how does the education landscape here change for locals who want to get a college education close to home? My understanding is St. Andrews served a lot of people in this area of the state during its years of operation.
Yeah, I think the last enrollment they had was around 800 or so.
That's right.
And then that was, a lot of those were athletes from outside the area that come here to either play football or with the equestrian team or soccer. But and I would confident enough to say I think the majority of those students were athletes. There were, quite a few local people through the years have definitely, gotten their education there. Some of the, and this is probably one of the hardest things about St. Andrews closing is people from outside the area who went to St. Andrews and then stayed here in Scotland County because they loved it so much they made it their home. And I mean, there's quite a few people that there's retirees that have lived here since they graduated college and made a family here. So that's it. With that closing, I think that's the emotional side of it. That's probably one of the things that hurt the most. But financially, with some of the businesses here in town, I think they felt an impact from at the beginning, but I think it's starting to level off a little bit for them. I would use Dunkin' for Dunkin' Donuts, for example. I think he said that particular proprietor said that St. Andrews was one of his largest customer bases. So he took about a 25% dip when they closed it. But again, I think that all is starting to level out a little bit now. But again, we do miss not knowing that our local university is here. But with that being said, we've got Richmond Community College that has a campus here in Scotland County. So if those that are looking for technical or those type of trades, we've got access. They've got access here. And then UNC Pembroke is about 20 miles down the road, not far, next county over. So we've got education system here to help support this community.
As far as folks who had worked at the campus either as instructors or support staff, has the economy been able to sort of absorb some of those jobs, or those folks stayed in the area? Have we seen a lot of folks who've moved away as a result of the closure?
Some of them have moved away. Some of them have. I know some of the folks that lived in my neighborhood, for example, have gone up to Virginia. I can't remember the school, but they've gotten employment there. There are some folks that have gotten opportunities with local businesses here. Yeah. So with that, some of the local talent that was connected to St. Andrews has been absorbed here by other businesses.
Mm-hmm. Outside of the university issue, I know Scotland County has often had one of the state's highest unemployment rates in the past, but I've noticed the numbers have been improving over the last few years. Where are you seeing some of the bigger economic development wins for this area where you're able to bring back in jobs and sort of chip at the unemployment rate in a positive direction?
I'd start with the hospital system. Again, that being our biggest employer, they continue to make investments in our local system here. And not only inside Scotland County, but they're expanding outside into other counties over in Marlborough County in South Carolina. And in Pembroke, they've got quite a good representation there in Pembroke as well.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Some David Popett, CEO for the hospital, and they got partnerships with Richmond Community College and UNCP on, medical training. So, that educational component is coming into the hospital. Got a brand new state-of-the-art surgical center there.
Yeah.
And our hospital we're really proud of. It's got an A bond rating. This is not a rural hospital in distress. This is a thriving, well-run piece of the infrastructure in Scotland County that we're really proud to say is one of our partners.
You touched on that sort of broader picture for rural hospitals being challenged. Is a hospital like the one here that's in good shape sort of put itself in a position when if there are other smaller hospitals in the region that close, then suddenly this becomes sort of a healthcare hub in maybe ways that it wasn't 20 or 30 years ago?
100%. Yeah.
Outside of that, are there other types of businesses or industries that you're sort of on the hunt for that could be a really good fit here for what this area has to offer?
We want to create a canvas for other companies to come here and win. and we're looking for diversification and make sure we don't put all our eggs in one basket. So defense with, we're really close to the military installations at Fort Bragg. We've got some great defense contractors in and around. We'd love to see, more opportunities there. And there's a number of assembly facilities, intermodal. We've got great transportation with I-73 now is a full interstate coming east to west through Scotland County, less than 30 miles from both the I-95 north-south interchange, the I-73 north-south interchange. We're about 90 miles from the port of Wilmington. We've got intermodal facilities with CSX and Gulf and Western. We're open to a host of diversified industries, and with that industrial infrastructure that's around what we call Southeast Regional Airport Authority, the Laurinburg-Scotland Airport. It's a very unique industrial facility in itself around that airport. As Chris was alluding to, there's about 3,000 acres that the airport authority owns, has the water and the sewer infrastructure that it owns, and it is self-supportive. And we've got a number of additional sites there, and we work closely, between the chamber. The city is the owner of that airport, and Walker is part of that. And we're constantly working with each other to try and find opportunities for new businesses. I can't say much more than that without breaking some confidentiality.
Yeah, exactly. But the fact that you're in that stage of where there's something in the works that, you've got the confidentiality agreements, that's a good place to be in, I'm sure.
But just, for example, you talking about how many RFPs you've been getting in recently, like just you've been getting bombarded by a lot of people looking. Retail-wise.
Retail-wise, in the past 10 years, we probably had more than we have in the previous 20. There's been a lot of investment. We kind of climbing the ladder as far as retail stuff. Community wants a lot of different things. We just have to work to get there. Chick-fil-A came to town, and that's kind of one of the things we didn't necessarily expect in Laurinburg. It's been huge. It's been huge to drive other retail coming here. Mm-hmm. The city worked with a investment group and some developers would get Hobby Lobby here, which is another one of those kind of little milestone retails that we've got in the community, and it really draws other retail to look at that.
Is that the result of the highway improvements in this area, that even if the population itself hasn't been growing that significantly, retailers are looking at serving that highway traffic with something like a Chick-fil-A?
Absolutely. We've always had a lot of big traffic, but the improvements, like you say, on 73, 74 have made a big difference. People keep coming through this direction. We get a lot of people up Greensboro or even further north than that. It's kind of just a good distance away from the beach to stop and, that last hour and a half before you get there. So a lot of places around here, really rely on that traffic to come through and help their business.
As far as the role of the state, whether it's the Department of Commerce or the legislature, what assistance has come this way in recent years? And is there stuff that you're asking for? I think you alluded to sort of the role of the state in helping address some of the thorny issues around St. Andrews.
I say through Commerce directly, just through the Main Street program, they're big contributors in our Main Street program. We've gotten grants for a building downtown. We have a rural transformation grant and a rural economic downtown grant that kind of tagged on to that one. So we have $1.1 million that we're working on a building downtown. We're kind of going through a design phase and a little bit of demo work right now for that. So, that's where Commerce has helped with some of those grants to keep things moving for downtown for us.
Yeah. All of the RFPs that were mentioned that, they've been funneled to us through Department of Commerce to North Carolina Southeast, up to, our Scotland County. And if you go back and look, Golden Leaf has played a big partnership. We're doing a spec building that they provided a grant for out at our Wallace Way site. It's under construction right now. And the whole Wallace Way Industrial Park, which city was very instrumental in helping us to get certified through Electricities and their partnership there. We've had multiple agencies across the state and the NGOs like the Golden Leaf provide infrastructure, research for us, from geotech studies to environmental studies, to put us in a position to compete.
One thing you didn't touch on that I want to sort of discuss a little bit as we wrapped up is the role, to whatever extent it does play, of tourism as far as the puzzle. You mentioned the beach traffic coming through, but for folks elsewhere in the state who maybe haven't visited this area before, what are some of the assets that you guys might market as a potential day trip or weekend excursion to this part of the state?
Lumber River State Park.
Yeah. And it's really a fascinating state park,
Yeah.
And very familiar with it. It's on the northern line of the county. It starts at State Road 1412, which is Turnpike bridge crossing, and it runs to the South Carolina line. It's over 100 miles. If you guys hadn't had a chance to see it, the Northern Park headquarters at Chalk Banks is located in Wagram, and actually they're doing a brand new, and so it links. You can do from an hour canoe trip all the way, to multi-day canoe trips all the way to the state line outside of Fair Bluff. The the river was designated by Congress, particularly the portion in northern Scotland County, as a wild and scenic river back in the 90s, and that was in late 80s, early 90s. That was a very rare designation at the time for a Blackwater river. If I'm not mistaken, it was the only Blackwater river with that designation in the country.
I think so. Yeah.
That people had visited us from all over the country to come paddle that section of the river, and we'd love to invite you back for a separate trip if you'd ever like to see it.
Yeah.
I think one thing that is kind of unique, and this goes back to the airport. The summer home for the Army Golden Knights is they're stationed there. So during I think from probably April through October, their Golden Knights are out there jumping every day. That's pretty unique.
Yeah, does that attract any sort of spectators to come watch it?
Yeah, I mean, anybody's allowed. You can go out there and watch them anytime. Yeah.
And we just had a great air show, first one in the airport, that Golden Knights jump.
Yeah.
Had a U.S. Air Force, I forget which jet, but it's called the Viper teams, demonstrated a number of
F-16s,
which was back in September. And that's already on the calendar again for the end of October next year.
Yeah.
So love to have you come. Great air show. And again, what everybody's fascinated about is the infrastructure of that airport to host that air show.
Another is the annual Highland Games, the Scotland County Highland Games. I don't know how many people they had come through this year, but I think historically they've had like 8,000 to 9,000 people come through, and typically they're from outside the area. Yeah.
We've had a lot of people that have, contacted us and said that was the best games that they've been to, and they've been to them from Grandfather Mountain to, all over Virginia and the Southeast, and said these were the best games they've ever attended.
Well, Chris English is Executive Director of the Laurinburg-Scotland County Area of Commerce. We're also speaking with Jeff McCoy of the Scotland County Economic Development Corporation and Walker McCoy, who handles community development for the city of Laurinburg. Thanks again for taking the time to speak with me.
Thank you, Zoe. Thank you.
Main Street NC is a production of WUNC News. The podcast is edited by Dave DeWitt. You can see photos of Laurinburg from Josh Sullivan at our website, WUNC.org. And if you're in Laurinburg and Scotland County, you can now listen to WUNC's news and information programming on the radio at 89.1 FM. I'm Colin Campbell. Thanks for listening.
Each story you hear on Planet Money starts with a question. What happens if we refund tariffs? Why are groceries so expensive? At NPR, we stand for your right to be curious, because the forces shaping our world can be hard to see. Follow NPR's Planet Money wherever you get your podcasts and start seeing how the economy really works.